Okay, good night, everyone watching. My name is Rashid Palasan. I'm a volunteer at the Heritage Education Network. The Heritage Education Network is a nonprofit organization led by a group of archaeologists, heritage professionals, and tourism and business industry leaders who work to support heritage education and the sustainable development of tourism and creative business. Our goal is to facilitate the sustainable development of communities, businesses, and organizations in the culture, creative, and tourism sector who are key stakeholders in the maintenance of culture and national heritage. We offer online courses and educational resources, and we are a fairly new we are a fairly new organization, nonprofit, started this year. We have tonight a very special talk. We're going to be talking about Garifuna culture, but in the perspective of language. So let's get started. Before I do, thank you all for tuning in. I'd like to thank you all for being here with us. I would like to introduce Miss Eleanor Cecelia Bullock Castillo, Director
Castillo.
of GAMAE Arts and Culture, was born in a small coastal town of Dangriga in Sand Creek District, Belize, Central America. Eleanor is a leading figure in the growing resistance of young Garifuna intellectuals, artists, and scholars who are writing poetry, drama, plays in their native Garifuna language. As a graduate of Syracuse University in visual and performing arts, performing and program based on the Garifuna culture and language, Eleanor set out to create and design a book of Garifuna multi-generational language immersion program with the ensemble of some of the best traditional Garifuna music, songs, unique Garifuna poetry, drama, and all things Garifuna. I'd like to thank Miss Eleanor for being here, as well as the lovely Miss Ralycia Andrews. Miss Andrews is a Vincentian student, but consider herself as a globally educated individual concerned with cultural in consider herself a cultural enthusiast, humanitarian, photographer, writer, and aspiring biologic and cultural anthropologist. Uh, recognizing Recognized for her written work in the Michigan State University Global Youth Network, Andrews is known for her activism for the Garifuna culture. From performing in cultural plays, paying homage to the Garinagu culture, reciting poetry, and being a cultural language assistant at the local cultural revival workshops, Jerome Garifuna Cultural Revival, as well as Garifuna language facilitator at the summer programs for 2 consecutive years, sharing Garifuna language history music with children. These are spanned almost 10 years of intensive passion and commitment in a 20 years old lifetime. So thank you both for being here. We will start off by talking a bit about the GAME program and initiative. So I would like to open the floor for Ms. Eleanor Bullock to start and just briefly what tell us about GAME, the organization, what it's about, and a description of what you do in the program and what you've been up to for the past couple of years.
Thank you, Rashid. Thank you for inviting me to this program. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Miss Ralycia, for accompanying me in this program. And I'd like to start by letting you know what GAME means. It's actually a Garifuna word which means we have. So GAME means we have. That means we have already. G is Garifuna and G-A-M-A-E. That means Game Wamuti, the arts and culture for G-A. Game Wamuti, the M for medicine and health. Game Wamuti, the second A for G-A-M-A for agriculture and farming. And the last letter is for E, which means Game Wamuti, our education. We are educated now, Garifuna people that is. So we've tried to encompass all those areas, the arts and culture, which we're very popular for. Definitely in Dangriga, we are well versed with our arts and culture. We are um, beginning to do a lot of things in medicine and health. For example, we're working on a stem cell program for women in the medicine and health. And in Game agriculture and farming, we're hoping to bring farming and agriculture back to the southern Belize, particular in Dangriga, because at one time the livelihood of the Garifuna people was agriculture and farming. So we're hoping to bring that back somehow, and that's what we hope to do in the agriculture and farming area. And the education area is basically for continuous development, teaching and training, and in all of these areas. And we're also, because of COVID, believe it or not, looking into teaching and training online. And so GAME was started in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. I'm in New Jersey, and my sister, who's the president of our organization, she's in North Carolina. So because we are from Belize, we are looking to, or we've started connecting with Garifuna in Dangriga so that we can collaborate and do programs and projects together. But the goal is that we want to encourage the Garifunas in Dangriga to assist us with our programs so that we can try to seek grants and funding from America to help us, to help with the programs in Dangriga. We want to, one of our goals is to try to empower the people of Dangriga to work with us and to help us put these programs together to not only help the children of Dangriga, but to help the people of Dangriga. We're from Dangriga. We're the very rare Dangriga people who still speak the language. So it's very critical, for example, myself, to focus on teaching and training in the Garifuna language. Most of us know already that the Garifuna language has been declared, or it's known today as being endangered, and it is facing extinction. But many of us don't even need to read about that. We can simply go to Southern Belize and find that out ourselves. Many of our children don't speak the language anymore, and many Garifuna people definitely in Southern Belize are not speaking the language anymore. So that's very, very critical to what we do in GAME. Definitely to what I do in GAME as the director of the Garifuna Arts and Culture. As a matter of fact, that is the reason why I put together the Habinaha Garinagu Garifuna Language Performing Arts Program. I did that as a way to start teaching and performing in the language. And as a matter of fact, what I do in that program, I write poems. And when I write the poems, I write them in Garifuna and I write them in English so that our audience, and particularly so that the children who are performing it, because they don't speak or understand Garifuna, they will know what they are speaking and what they are saying and what the poem is all about. In the Habinaha Garinagu Performing Arts Program, I also write drama, and our drama is also in Garifuna and in English, so that too can be read in both languages so that it can be understood. Habina is a very a close to my heart project because my children got involved, a lot of my family members got involved, and it is a way for them to learn how to speak the Garifuna language, even if it's through poetry, drama, and music and our songs. Because what I do, I use many of our traditional Garifuna songs in Habinaha Garinagu to when I do my writing, and in the workshop itself, most of it is the traditional songs. What is contemporary in there would probably be the play, the drama, and the poetry. But most of it is the songs, and that's what I do. So the Habinaha Garinagu Garifuna Language Performing Arts Program is specifically geared for children. Our workshop is usually for children at least by the age of 5 or 6, all the way up to perhaps about 20. And they learn, as you know, children are easy to pick up and learn things. One of the good things that I've done was I started the program when I was invited to Belize in 2005. That was the first time we exhibited the program in Belize, and then it was very well received. So I was invited again in 2009. We got so many children to participate from all over southern Belize, which included Hopkins, St. Vite, PG, Barranco. Children from all over southern Belize came to be a part of the workshop, and it was beautiful. And in 2011, as a matter of fact, we went to St. Vincent. The first time I had been to St. Vincent, I was thrilled. I was taken back. I was moved because that is, of course, our motherland. And this was my first time going there. I took my children and we did a workshop with over 100 children and young adults. And that too was a wonderful program that was well received. That was in 2011. So the Habinaha Garinagu program has been around for a while. When we do shows now or before the COVID, I don't do use a lot of young children anymore because it's difficult to work with young people. So that's why I'm switching my gears around because of COVID, and now I'm starting to do a lot of writing in GAMAE. I'm writing children's stories, and I'm hoping to get children to perform. As a matter of fact, we have children, a set of twins who are looking to perform the stories that I'm writing. I'm looking to work with Heritage Educational Network to work with me on some of those projects because the goal is to teach very young children now how to learn words, how to learn some of the basic Garifuna greetings, the easy greetings, and some of the words that we say. We want the um, young children to learn that because we think it's best to. Thank you for showing that. That is our St. Vincent group that we worked with. As you could see, it was a very large group. And I give kudos to Mr. James Cordis, who's sitting right there in the front, my business partner, James Lovell, and Trish St. Hill. And I think there was two more other people that played a role in getting me and my family to be able to go to St. Vincent to do this program. Very well received, and it was amazing how a lot of the children, they were so enthusiastic about being there. They learned the songs, they learned the poems, they learned the dances. It was amazing. You couldn't tell, you can tell that they are Garifuna, if not in their genes, in their DNA, at least in their spirit. If Ralycia would like to say something, because I believe she was in that program when we did the Habinaha Garinagu Garifuna Language Performing Arts Program in St. Vincent in 2011.
Hi everyone. Yes, I was 11 years old when it started in 2011, and I have been a member ever since. And I would have to say that one of the main things that I took away from the program that Miss Eleanor just stated, it was very easy to assimilate to the Garinagu culture because it felt innate. It felt like it was something that was simply missing, and I picked it up and ran with it because we were taught songs, we were taught aspects of the history, we were taught about the dishes, we were allowed to dance with each other using like veranda and pita and listen to the rhythm of the drums and everything. So it was a very fruitful experience, I would have to say.
And I do have to say that the large number of children and young adults that came to share their skills and their talents, it can get challenging if any one of you, if you know how it is working with children, it can be a challenge. But because we're there to have fun, and to enjoy our culture and our music and dance. We just have a good time, and it turns out to be a very wonderful workshop. And as a matter of fact, at the end of the workshop, we would have a performance. And as a matter of fact, I believe we had a couple of performances. We had a performance in the main, I forgot the name of the auditorium, but I do remember we had a performance in a place called Griggs or Greg's. I think it's Griggs. And what's amazing to me about that place in St. Vincent was when the bus, right before we went into where we were performing, Garifuna was written all over Griggs or Greg's. And it just made my heart feel so good. And they were so welcoming. And the performance there, I think it was right. The one in in King, no, not Kingston, the one in St. Vincent. The main show was at Peace Memorial Hall. And then later on we went to Griggs, and it was very well received and well attended.
Miss Eleanor, before you go into that, I know you sent me some pictures from when you were in St. Vincent in 2011. So I just want to show that to give the people a sense of context because you did a lot. I see a lot of different kids. We see them dramatizing different things, you know. It's just to give people a sense of what's going on. And then while I'm doing that, you could kind of talk briefly about the new play that you mentioned that you're working with the two twins or the two kids about. Kind of, you know, because we know you're telling us how you start, but then let's get a small sample of what you're working on now before we kind of jump into the
Hmm.
rest of the meat of
Um,
the
uh,
matter.
right now, I just wrote. It's going to be an audiobook series. Um, it and the story started with the a set of twins. They're living in Dangriga, and they moved to their they moved in with their grandparents. Well, no, with a grandmother. And like I said, the reason why I'm writing audio books now is because we feel that the smaller or the younger the Garifuna child or children are, the better for them to learn Garifuna words, the Garifuna language. So the audio book the first series of the audio book series that I did start on, it's actually for probably grade two, first and second grade. So they move in with their grandmother, and they weren't that thrilled to move in with their grandmother because their parents, as a matter of fact, were migrating to the United States, which is what was done to many of us Garifuna children when our parents came to the United States. So when they migrated, they left us with our grandparents. As a matter of fact, I'm a classic example. My siblings and I, we are a classic example of children who were left with to be raised by our grandmother and grandfather, while our parents came to seek a better life in America. So that's kind of what I was gearing my story about. But why I got the twins involved is because the twins that I'm working with, they're very, very eager to learn our language. For example, I sent their their dad, Joshua Arana, um, some poems.
Joshua's actually watching right now. So
Good
good
night.
night, Joshua. I'm definitely sure he's gonna have some questions at
I
the end or
see.
comments. So thank you. So they probably watch. That's so,
So when I sent him the Joshua the poem for his twin daughters to learn, and he sent me an audio in WhatsApp of them with them learning the poem. I was so moved. I was actually moved to tears because they learned it so well, so great. And so it encouraged me to write the audio book because I said if they can learn that quickly and so nicely, they're not going to have a problem learning the audio book at all. And Rashid, another thing that I'm looking to do in GAME in arts and culture, um, I'm doing a whole switch to work now with children, like I said, because the language is critical, and I'm very passionate about it because I think I mentioned to you. why I'm so passionate about it, because when I came to America, my siblings and I, we spoke a lot of Garifuna in Dangriga. We came in 1968, and then we went back in about 5 years later, and I couldn't hear one. I didn't hear any, 5 years later, any Garifuna in Dangriga, and I came home crying, and I knew I had to do something about it, and that is another reason why my sister and I had to. We felt compelled to start GAMAE, and that is why I decided to use my visual and performing arts skills from Syracuse to come back into the Garifuna community to use my skills and talents to bring back the language somehow through different type of Garifuna language retrieval programs, including writing an audio book, or a series of audio books. And what I like too,
And I
Rashid,
think that's
there's,
very Relecia.
I'm sorry.
No. Please continue. What I
Oh,
was saying,
sorry.
when you're finished, I think that's definitely where Relecia could jump in because, since she
Okay.
was there in 2011, she could talk
Mhm.
about what's going on in St. What she took from the entire experience, which I know was very dear to you, getting that personal experience, and then she could talk a little bit about what's happening, what's been going on ever since. But I just
Mm.
wanted you to finish what you were saying
Mhm. So what I
because I didn't
let
want
me
to
just
interrupt your train.
that's all right. Let me just wrap it up. Why I want to do the audio books now, and there is this equipment called Me Reader, and what I hope that it will do for the children. I hope to encourage to get one, or we're going to work in GAME to be able to push that project forward. The Me Reader will have those audio books, and the children can just press, and it'll tell the story, and they could talk to the machine and all those kinds of things. We're switching. I'm switching my whole focus on trying to use technology today to bring back the Garifuna language first and foremost to the children, and then hopefully to the youth and to the young adults. And as a matter of fact, before I forget, I'm involved in a language retrieval program sponsored by the the Stand Creek Ecumenical and St. Vincent Project. And they have a program going on now for the youth and adults. So the difference with what we do, my focus is children. I feel that I have to focus on the children, because children will only grow up, and the goal is to have them grow up, and if they learn it when they're children, they will grow up at least knowing it, if not a little, some. Thank you, Rashid.
Yeah, definitely, because you hear a lot. No problem. You definitely growing up in a Garifuna household, you hear the language, but it's not for you to kind of jump in. It's not your place because you have to know where you fit in the entire dynamic as in growing up in the culture. But definitely
Mhm.
one thing is that even if it's not speaking to you, you do pick up certain things fairly quickly because you grow up hearing it all the time. Um,
Mhm.
one thing I could definitely say with my short experience with attending a language program in Belmopan, where James Lavelle did try to teach small kids nursery rhymes in
Right.
Garifuna, within 2 or 3 tries, they picked it up.
Mhm.
They picked it up like
Mhm.
nothing because it was so familiar to them. It's just a matter of them knowing
Mhm.
what to say and what it means. So it's learning
Mhm.
the significance of what they're saying. And I
Mhm.
think that's definitely the part where Relecia could jump in because I've heard her say things that I haven't heard. I heard her say things at the University of the West Indies KFL campus that I only heard the children say, and that's how she presented herself when I first met her at school. So you definitely made an impact working with her
Mhm.
for her to be doing that. And in her bio, she even said, she still does things in St. Vincent. So let's hear from Ralycia what's going on in St. Vincent with the Garifuna language.
I think what Rashid was referring to was our culture night where I sang one of the Garifuna songs that I was taught at the workshop by Mr. Lavelle. And he did approach me after because he said it sounds like it was a very old song to him. He hasn't heard it in a while. So yes, that was our first meeting on campus. And with relation to teaching the children specifically, that's something also there to me that I feel like you've passed down as well, because I have been teaching kids at the Clock for Fun summer program at our National Public Library in 2018 and 2019. We didn't have it this year because of the restrictions and etc. etc. But one of the things that I found really interesting, which, as Rashid pointed out, the kids picked up things very, very quickly. They jumped in with whatever rhymes and stuff that I taught them, like Abba, Biama, Uruwa. That was very easy for them. Yeah, they learned how to say their names, which part of the island they were from, and stuff like that. So teaching the kids, because the Garifuna language is not part of our school system in St. Vincent. So that's something very dear to me that I intend to get rectified in a sense. And some of them, even when I went back home for the summer, some of them even came up to me and they were reciting things in Garifuna for me, which was so touching and amazing because I feel like I've bestowed something onto them. And I can only imagine how you feel as the person who brought the language back to St. Vincent in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the thing is, they go back to their schools after the summer and they teach their friends in the classrooms. So that's something that I'm amazed at and in awe of and grateful for.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. As a matter of fact, um, there was a group of New York Garifuna that went to St. Vincent, I believe, a year after we went there in 2011, and and they met they met a lot of those children and youth and young adults who were in the 2011 program, and they did some of the things that that I taught them. And when the group came back, as a matter of fact, it was Jose Avila. He's the director, executive director of the coalition, Garifuna Coalition. He called and he told me that the 2011 workshop had such an impact on the children, youth, and young adults of St. Vincent, and he called to let me know that it was they did a lot of remembering and teaching others, which is our goal, and that's a beautiful thing. So. So I'll be happy to go back. As a matter of fact, the ecumenical group that I mentioned to you about, they're looking to go there in 2021, maybe 2022, whenever COVID allows. Um, and I understand they will have one or two teachers in the language that is going to stay in St. Vincent to teach. They're going to stay there for about a year or so, or maybe longer, to do some teaching. I don't know if I'll be a part of that project, but you never know. But I think I would love that because I really want our language to survive. I really want as many children, youth, and young adults to learn and or even understand our Garifuna language, because you have heard that UNESCO, and for anyone who don't know what UNESCO is, that is the United Nations educational, scientific, and cultural organization here, and I think it's global. They have Garifuna as listed as one of the masterpieces of the oral and intangible heritage of humanity. And we would my our goal is to try to turn that around, because they have stated that it is endangered and facing extinction. We want to try to turn that around by teaching our children and teaching as many youth and young adults the Garifuna language, so that it will not be endangered, and we won't lose it at all. I'm hoping we don't lose it at all. I really am. I'm very passionate about
Absolutely.
that. Yes, and that's why I'm looking into that writing and teaching small children, so that they can grow up and so that they'll have a tool in their houses. Because I think one of the issue today is the fact that our children and young adults, are going home to into their houses and not hearing the language. We were lucky that we went to school and they taught us the Queen's English, but when we came home, my grandparents, they spoke to us in Garifuna. So we were very lucky. But the children and youth today, they're not so lucky. They go to school and they learn the Queen's English, and they come home and their parents speak Creole to them. So it defeats the whole purpose of teaching and them learning the language. And I have to say, you all have heard of the Gulisi Elementary School.
No, I haven't.
You haven't heard? Yes,
Yes, in
in
Dangriga.
Dangrega. Yes, I give it kudos. I have to say, I give Gulisi kudos because it's a start. But I can see when I go home, as many times as I have gone home, from the time that Gulisi started, I have yet to see its impact on the children, especially those that I run into. I ask them sometimes when I know they go to Gulisi, tell me something in Garifuna, and of course they're still shy and they will not. And
Yeah.
it's my own children, believe it or not, tell me Garifuna is very difficult. But and that's another reason why I feel giving it to them when they are children, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, and giving it to them as early as we can. The basics, even to learn how we greet each other, even to learn repetitious stuff when we ask them, are you hungry? Lamade. That we make sure they answer us back malamatina, instead of saying, no, I'm not hungry. We want to reinforce, say, no, malamatina, or ino, malamatina, instead of, no, I'm not hungry. So it takes a lot. And I'm hoping that in a couple of years, heritage education, Belize Heritage
Network.
Education will have me again in a couple of years, and we'll have Ralycia, and we'll have a couple of students, young kids who will be talking, and you can interview them in a couple of years, Rashid. I'm really hoping that Dame could produce that for you.
You know, when I was young, I had an aunt who went to study in Guyana, but every time she would come home, she would try to teach me certain things like the body parts. Ask me if I know they know. But it almost became this thing where like my grandmother would send me to my grandfather's room and she would say, and I would push the door open and say, Araceli. Like there was, there were small seeds they were trying to plant, but it just never stuck the way
True.
it was supposed to due to, the lack of interaction outside of the home.
Oh.
And unfortunately, one of the quickest things people learn are insults, which they
Mm.
used to tell a story
That's
of
true.
when
Yeah.
I went to Hopkins when I was very, very young. They had some small Garifuna boys who were telling me something, and then I repeated a very serious insult towards them.
You
And
did.
I almost got beat up when I was probably like 6 or 7 because that's the only thing I knew how to respond with.
Uh,
So definitely with Garifuna children, they do have that interest, and you do have others who may not come from the Garifuna lineage, but they have that genuine interest for the language because growing up, I always heard about some small, like there was a story of a white boy who grew up close to Hopkins Village who spoke very fluent Garifuna, named Jeff. And even now, when my grandmother said she ran into Jeff, many many years he's a grown man, he still can have carry a full conversation in Garifuna because his mother was Garifuna, and he made sure that was a part of his identity growing up, and he still holds on to it dearly. So
mm,
it's finding that significance with the language, and
mhm,
then see how, or being in a space that helps you develop it as you go along, for it to not just be the 1 or 2 words,
mhm,
so that you can
mhm,
actually grow to have sensible conversations in
mhm,
Garifuna, not just the insults, not
mhm.
just the bad words. We need
Yeah.
more. But I definitely commend you for going the route of creating an audiobook because it's definitely something you have to hear it because
Yes.
the way how they
Yeah.
put the stresses and the emphasis on the
Yeah.
language, you have to hear it to understand so that you know how to go about navigating yourself. When
Yes.
learning the language, you have to learn the proper tenses, you have to learn what is masculine and feminine. Because that's
Yes.
another problem right now in Belize is that for those who do learn the language, their
Mhm,
mothers taught it to them.
mhm,
And so
mhm,
you have
mhm.
boys who unfortunately are speaking inappropriately to other people, and then they're either other men in the community would watch them funny and not know what to make of it.
That's very funny,
Unfortunately.
Rashid. Yes,
No, no,
that's very
it's
funny.
true because there's certain things women
Yes,
don't
say
say.
and what men say. Yes.
Yeah,
And we were told that historically that is because um, the history says that when the Caribs got to the Caribbean or to Saint Vincent, they killed off the Arawak men and married the Arawak women. And then all of us know that most of the time it's the mothers who are with the children, female children or male children. It's most of the time it's we're with our mothers. And so very hardly would the fathers be with their children, much less the sons. It's always the mothers. So it's likely that the mothers will teach her sons how to speak Garifuna probably the wrong way because compared to how the men, because they do say different words. But I do have to say that that is true. True in the sense that when James Lavelle and I started writing Habinaha Garinagu, the workshop, the program. I did most of the writing, and I would send it to him to correct it, and he would send it back because he knew a lot of the way a man talks. And then we would get into this. I don't say it like that, and he would say, "No, we don't. No, we don't say it like that either." So we would have to we play around with that. So what would happen is if if it's a poem or if it's a drama and if it's a male character or a female character, we would write then specifically for the female character, and for the male character he could fix that and I'll leave it in there for the male. Yeah. he he would say something like we would say hiaru. He would say wuri, and that's the same for the it's a female. So that's why that's how we would end up editing and fixing what we write. Um, two different writers, a male and a female. Trust me, makes a difference.
Yeah, yeah. I remember the history too. They would say that the men would live in even different tents than the women. The women
Yeah.
had their own house, and they would the children would live with the women until the boy reaches a certain age of maturity. Then he moves into the house of the father or the men's tent, and then he would learn the men's language. So it's like until you're 14, you learn how to talk properly. And you see, the thing is that due to the way our society is now, a lot of women have to be both mother and father in
Yeah,
household. You have a lot of maternal households, so
household.
they can't teach their kids what they don't know or how
Hmm.
they don't talk. You have to learn what is taught to them. So that creates that gap in society, but it's something that we as a community we have to be the ones to push for it. It's not just you, it's not just James, it's not just Greg, it's not just
Hmm.
Miss Emily Martinez Palasta who does small projects with language in the Belpan area. It's us as Miss Gwen Nunes Gonzalez. It's all of us who are
Hmm.
responsible for that.
Yes, yes, yes. I commend Miss Gwen Nunes. I used to, and I still do. I use a lot of material from her grandmother. Um, and her grandmother wrote a lot of poems,
Okay.
and I like them. I like them a lot, and I use them. But Gwen Nunes, Dr. Gwen Nunes Gonzalez, she does a lot of teaching online now, and I commend her for that. She runs the language program that I was telling you about, and she must be commended. She's certainly a Garifuna from Southern Belize who have kept up the culture, and particularly the language. Yes, we can definitely learn from her. So I'm hoping that Heritage Belize, Education Belize, will have me again one day with my books. I'm putting together. Disney have a lot of children books, and I want to use those books to write them in Garifuna. Use characters that our Garifuna children can relate to, and not so many of these American characters, unless if they fit, of course. But I'm really looking forward to expanding on that project for writing the audiobooks for our young children, because I think that's critical. And I have to
Definitely.
I'm sorry. I have to commend my sister, the president of GAMAE. She's the one who's been pushing me to do that. So I'm excited about it. I'm hoping that our organization GAMAE will be funded, and we can get some funds, awarded grants, and investors, and so on, so that that program can help in the preservation of the Garifuna language yet to come.
Okay. Now I have to ask Alicia a question because she's been quiet in the corner for a bit. What do you think would be the best approach when coming to teaching Garifuna in schools in St. Vincent? Or how would you consider like the reform? Because with St. Vincent, we know the history. We know that we did have the two Carib Wars, and due to that, there's a complete separate. It ruptured the language in a sense where you have one half of us in Central America and the US, and we now consider ourselves the diaspora, and then you have those who are still in St. Vincent. Now, I know that in Belize, Ms. Eleanor definitely mentioned that, we do have these projects where we go into spaces in St. Vincent to try to teach Garifuna and whatnot. But what more could be done? You know, do you think that we should, or that the Vincentian government should consider maybe having more of funding towards like Garifuna awareness or different things like that? Because even my time on campus, as I met a Vincentian student, I would ask them, "Are they Garifuna?" And then they would kind of watch me funny. And the truth is, some of them honestly
Yeah.
don't know. They don't know.
Yes, that's
So
funny. Mhm.
that's the thing. So what do you think can be done to help bond us more as a people, create that a stronger link between the diaspora and St. Vincent? Because I know Ralph always talks about giving Garifuna from the diaspora honorary Vincentian passports or something like that for us to go back home. I don't know how much of us are gonna fit in St. Vincent right now if all of us decide to go back home tomorrow, especially with COVID. So let's get your thoughts on this.
Well, I would have to first start off by saying that it does not just have to be the National Garifuna Council. And we just don't have to depend on, oh, you give a grant here or grant there, and then we don't see them for a couple years because they don't have funding to continue the work that they have been doing. We need to start implementing Garifuna language in school, just as we've done with Spanish and French. But in addition to doing that, it's not just a matter of telling the students, hey, no, you have to learn Garifuna language instead of taking Spanish or French. It's, hey, you are being given the opportunity to learn this because this is your culture. This is part of you. It shouldn't necessarily be a choice between Spanish or French. I feel like it should be made mandatory. Because if we're giving our students English classes, why not give them Garifuna classes as well and teach it in similar ways? And in addition to trying to link Garifuna from Central America and St. Vincent, there have been many instances where I know from experience my teachers, because those who taught me Garifuna, the reason why they can't come back is because the airfares are too expensive. So if we intend to implement Garifuna language in schools, it does not just simply have to be, or I'm going to sit you in front of a computer and you're going to watch somebody do this. The person needs to be there. We need to take time out to actually plan this and implement it as part of our culture instead of simply speaking about it. Because consistently speaking about it isn't going to make it happen. Nothing is going to happen without action. And in addition to the way how we implemented it, I don't know if you can pull up a couple of the photos from my Garifuna language classes at the program that I did. I've noticed that the students are more reactive to colors and images and characters. That's why I think it's so amazing that Miss Eleanor is doing an audiobook, because not only can they see the story play out in front of them, they have the opportunity to hear it and they can play it back as many times as they can to get certain nuances in the words, learn how to pronounce certain things. So I think that that's very impactful because, as you see here, something as simple as the colors, if they have something to look at and if it's attractive, they would more readily learn it. They would be more excited to learn it because let's face it, they're kids, and these were kids ages like 6 to 10 years of age. I hope I answered your question. You're on mute, Rashid.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's interesting you said that because some of these words look like sentences to me. Like red. How do you say red? Punta?
Mm-hmm.
Puntai? You could give me a
Mm-hmm.
crash course
Nasty.
right now with these
Yeah,
with these.
Miss Eleanor is pronouncing it.
Oh lad, everybody mute. Sorry.
That's all right. Funati.
Punati.
Funati.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And then the one that looks biggest to
Your
me is yellow.
Yellow. Yes. They had a lot of difficulty with that one, but it was fun. Finally got it. It was a sense of relief because they achieved something great in that time.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't blame
But
them.
you're absolutely right. She's absolutely right, Rashid. One of the problems that we have in Southern Belize or in Belize, period, um, we never had it in preschool or in
Mm.
school,
Yeah.
even up to today. They never taught Garifuna in school. So it was always the Queen's English, and then we had to learn it at home. But I believe, just like what Ralycia said, if they taught that in preschool and in elementary school, the language wouldn't be endangered today.
Mm-hmm.
It would
Agreed.
be, yes, children would be speaking it even to up to today. It has to go into the schools. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right, Ralycia. That's a good suggestion. Have it in the schools instead of just the extracurricular activities. I'm looking forward to having our audio book go very far, but it belongs in the schools where there are Garifuna children and where we want to continue to teach and have our children learn it and the
And
youth and young adults learn Garifuna. Other than
that's
that,
why
it's going to be difficult.
that's why we need books like yours because those will be very impactful when you're teaching the kids the Garifuna
Hmm.
language. And
Hmm.
just as we have the English textbooks, they all have stories, they all have pictures and so on, but we need to not make learning about Garifuna language and history a choice
Yeah,
because
it's
this is
mandatory.
about you. This is where you came from. So your book, I see it being very, very successful because it's
Hmm.
something that could be very impactful in schools for them to look at and then they flip the pages, they get excited when they finish a story. The colors are bright and vibrant and they look at the words and they sound it out and they
Hmm.
replay it because you were very intelligent to make it an audiobook. They
Hmm.
replay it as many times as they want to and they share it
Right,
with their friends and so on.
right,
So yeah.
right. And then on top of that, Relicia, where I want to incorporate music, the
Mm-hmm.
music, because children, everyone loves Garifuna music. Everyone loves Garifuna drums. You know that they love
Yeah.
we love our drums and we love our music. So I want to incorporate all that into the book. And you're absolutely right. It'll be worthwhile for Saint Vincent, Honduras, Guatemala, Nicaragua, and and wherever we have Garifuna. And it's funny that you mentioned
California, Chicago.
California, UK, in UK. And it's funny that Ralycia mentioned that because while we were in St. Vincent, um, there um, there were a lot of the people there were asking questions like, "How do I know if I'm Garifuna?" How do you
Yeah.
answer that, Ralycia? Yes, because we got that quite a lot. It seems like they're very confused and don't know how to identify or whether or not they are indeed Garifuna.
To answer that, I would have to say that I am Garifuna in spirit, I am Garifuna in feeling, I am Garifuna in the way how I look, my physical appearance, I am Garifuna in the soil in my country. It's not just being defined by your
The
outward
DNA.
appearance. It's something that you feel inside. Because as I said, I was 11 years old when I knew about the Garifuna culture, and my mom was wise enough to say, "Hey, you have to go to this workshop." She
Mm.
was the one who put everything in place so that I can actually be there, and she was very supportive. And even though she didn't know about the culture, she made sure that I did. So it's
Mm.
something that you have to feel. It's
Cool.
something that you have to show. It's something that you have to embrace. It's not just you slap a label on it and that's it. I am
Mhm.
Garifuna because I am Garifuna. That's
Mhm.
simply it. Yeah.
And I know your mom's watching live right now. You were asking me
Yes,
constantly,
she
when are we going to have this? So good night, Releases mom. I don't know what to call her besides your mom. So good night to you
the
and
name
those
is
folks watching in St.
Rachel.
Vincent. Good night, Miss
Yeah.
Rachel, and those folks watching from St. Vincent, and the others who might be tuning in from the KFL campus or any other UE campus, at this matter of fact.
Mm.
All right, so I think we are at that time where we should take questions from the audience. We have a relatively large audience, so I'll just pick the most relevant questions. This one is from Ella. She is one of the directors at Heritage Education Network. So, good night, Ella. What do you think the challenges are to make Garifuna language popular amongst young people? Not against. I
You want
think
me to
we
answer
answered.
that?
The floor is open. So yes.
Okay, I think that for Southern Belize, I have to speak for Southern Belize a little bit because um, they are very strong in the music and dance. And I think that, for example, they have the Habinaha Wanaragua, they have the drums, the drums, the drum show. So I think that um, letting them know the importance of losing a language because most of us elders or older Garifuna know that when you lose when a culture loses its language, it loses its identity. And I think the young people need to be taught that, especially the young people, no matter where they are. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even have to be Southern Belize. I only pinpoint Southern Belize because I have noticed they are very passionate about the music and the dance, and I would like them to become as passionate about the language as they are to the music and the dance, because to me it goes together. It goes together because when they sing the songs, they're singing in it in Garifuna. So they should learn what they are singing about by learning and getting enthusiastic about the language. So that's how I would approach that. And I would definitely approach it by the way they have fun with our dances and our music. try to have fun with learning the language as well. Like what Ralycia was saying, it for adults and young adults, it may take more than pictures. That's probably for the children, but find fun ways to teach it to the young adults.
That's interesting. Well, it's very, very true because one of the few times that people actually get together in the Garifuna community would be around the 19th of November, which is Universal Park. You have the drums, the Battle of the Drums, where they
Yes.
talk about five major genres of Garifuna music. Hugo Hugo, Punta,
Chumba,
Paranda,
Paranda,
Chumba, and I
Wanaragua,
think
Wanaragua.
Manargo. Yeah.
Yeah, Unago.
And that's you have the pantomime section, you have all these things, but if you're not willing to travel to PG, then you miss out. Because this year was the first time they did it live on TV. You know, if you're not willing to make the sacrifice to fly to Belize and then book a hotel in Punta Gorda and then pay the entry fee and do all of that, then you miss out. So definitely we need to have more live discussions and demonstrations of these things because they are much a part of the language as well as they should encourage more things with the language because I
Mhm.
mean language and dance and everything because it's all one thing. You can't just
Mhm.
like Garifuna food and not know anything about the language and you like listening to Punta but you listen to the Punta with English words. Like
Right, right, right. And they
so
singing it. And believe it or not, it's amazing. You see how they sing it and they sing it very well. But ask them what they're singing about. They usually don't know. Yes,
yeah. And we're
yeah.
having a surge of Garifuna musicians from Honduras who are collaborating with Belizean musicians. So you're seeing that linkage starting to happen a bit more with people collaborating because Aurelio Martinez was the one I knew for a very long time who would try to come to Belize and share Garifuna music. And even when it comes to Garifuna literature, I know the Caetano family with Pen Caetano, his son Ibo, Mali, and Miss Ingrid. They have a series of
You
books
mean
that they
Roy
wrote.
Cayetano? You mean Roy Cayetano?
No, Pen.
Oh, Penn.
Pen
Yes, yes, yes,
has
Penn. The
his
artist.
family has storybooks like one about Wanaragua, one about and I know it's a family thing because from meeting them over the years, I know that Igbo definitely has a hand in helping writing as well as Miss Ingrid, while Ali would be the one with working with her family and painting these nice little scenes
Mhm.
to help the immersion, to help capture children's imagination while reading. Now, Roy Caetano, he does a lot of things with the language and teaching people how to go about learning the language. You do have the Garifuna Dictionary. You have multiple Garifuna dictionaries, but I know his one is
Yes,
one widely received.
yes.
Um, and you
That's the
have all of
secret.
these different, but they're like small pockets here and there. It's not one big cohesive thing
Mhm.
that's getting a strong push. So definitely we as a community have to reevaluate what our priorities are and
Mhm.
try to fix that accordingly because the South has a lot to offer of Belize. I know that St. Vincent has a lot to offer because they're eager to learn. As
Mhm.
well as the diaspora, you have kids in. I've seen videos of kids dancing Wanaragua in LA, kids dancing Wanaragua in New York. I've never seen anyone dance Wanaragua in the Chicago snow before, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
You know, Rashid, what's amazing
Okay,
to
I think we
me,
have one more.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. What I was
No,
saying,
no,
what's
no. Okay, go
amazing to
ahead.
me. Yes, I'm sorry. What I was saying, what's amazing to me, because I've been to a couple of the Wanaragua, Habinaha Wanaragua contest competition, And it's amazing to me when I watch these young people. Some of them are children, but most of them are young adults. You could see the spirit of their ancestors dancing in their spirit. I mean, and it's just so amazing that the culture have traveled this far. That's why we just cannot end it now. I'm really looking forward to answer Ella's question again about trying to get the young people enthusiastic. I'm coming home to retire, by the way. I need everyone who's listening to know that. And I'm really, really looking forward to coming home to work with the young people, because I feel performing arts, drama, particularly write our story in our language is so critical to me. I want to come and write for our youth so that they could perform Garifuna drama. Garifuna drama, that's going to help them. And I believe because young people are so dramatic these days, I think they will like that, especially the youth will like that, to learn how to do theater by learning their language. I'm looking forward for that, to do that.
Yeah, of course. You see, I think that I would like to see like the pantomime be developed into something more than just when Battle of the Drums happens. I would want to actually see pantomime productions or different things where you do have that type of bringing a taste of the culture into urban spaces in Belize, because we do have Wanarwa who dance in Bonfan, surprisingly. It's something a lot of people find hard to believe. But you do see that in Belize, wherever you have the Garifuna community, they try to represent themselves as well as possible. So from as far north as Libertad to all the way south in Barranco, you have different things happening. We might not necessarily know about some of the things happening because it doesn't make it onto social media, but there's a lot happening. We have one more. We have one more question. Oh, we have a comment. This is from April Martinez. She is also one of the directors at Heritage Education Network. And yes, thank you, April. We do have Jankono Productions in Belize. It is a theater-based organization. I think it's just Jankono by the name. I can't prove if we do we have or we do not have Garifuna individuals involved. But I have seen one of the productions where they were able to bring in Oliver Samuel to Belize for a small training. Talking about theater and doing community-based theater. And surprisingly enough, you have a lot of different people from the south who are willing to go to Belize to the Bliss to partake in that. You had different individuals I know from Independent High School. From I know someone who used to work at Saint Alfonso, which is yeah, Saint Alfonso is the primary school in Saint Bite. I
Mm,
met Adrian the Doc Martinez there. You had
mm,
multiple police officers, so you do have people who are interested. It's just finding a way how. Now, what a comment Oliver Samuel was that if he had like 2 months with us, we'd be good to do whatever we needed. We'd know how to get things going when it comes to getting funding, knowing how to train kids. But unfortunately, I only had 2 days. But we need more to be done. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time when you do get Garifuna written more Garifuna written productions. Um,
mm,
you get more things happening with the Garifuna culture, because I know um, Big Palacio has some artwork in the Smithsonian which depict Garifuna um, Garifuna Culture from Belize.
Mm.
So, even you could be walking through Smithsonian, next thing you know, you see a dance scene for a painting of the river in Dangriga with kids playing in it. And of all the places, the Smithsonian, you don't expect to see it there.
You never
But we're
know.
everywhere. We're definitely everywhere.
Yes,
And with,
yes.
if you mention like the Garifuna collectives, because we did have a young man named Clayton Williams at the first discussion on the 18th, who he
Mm-hmm.
is a musician. He considers himself the youngest parandero, and he's trying to do
Mm-hmm.
his part with the language too, using music as a tool for that. He's from Hopkins
Mm-hmm.
Village. He loves the village. He says that people still go looking for him at his house because tourists would see videos like the one we're having promoting Hopkins, and they would see him, so they think he's always there. And also, we're getting around. We are, as
Yes,
the
we
people, are
are. We
definitely
are.
getting around. We have a person asking June Reyes, which organization in Dangriga do you work with? Well, you have multiple organizations in the works in this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
You have
Mm-hmm.
GAMAE, which you have Miss Eleanor Bullock is a part of, and who she is
Mm-hmm.
representing, and you have the Heritage Education Network, who is hosting this discussion. Uh, I know that Miss Andrews is the president of the Debate Society. So I guess you could
Yes,
say
I
the Debate
am.
Society at KFL campus is
The
having
vice,
their
the
collaborations as
vice
well.
president. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm giving you a promotion. Yeah, the vice president is
As
here.
well
So
as,
you have multiple organizations participating. I think that we covered a lot tonight, and we don't have any more questions. So I would like to say thank you to the both of you, Ms. Eleanor, for having the time, and definitely you can hold us to it at a later date when you have things a bit more organized and ready.
Absolutely.
We'll be back to showcase your work,
Absolutely.
and then Miss Andrews will have children already prepped to sing and dance and do other things because she's very active in her community in so many ways. So it's just a matter of time for that as well.
Hmm. Thank
Thank
you,
you to the
Rusty.
viewers who have been making many comments like Joshua Orana. You have Nicole Perkins, thank you. You have Miss Rachel Carson who wrote, "Here is mom." So thank you, mom. I could imagine that's your mom.
yeah.
And everyone else who took the time to be with us on the 21st. We are going to continue having these type of discussions up until the 26th, because just because the 19th of November has passed doesn't mean the conversation should end 19th night. They should continue. This is going to be a part of the Garifuna project, which is a part of the Heritage Education Network, one of the anthropological discussions. So throughout next year, we're going to have more discussions like this. But for right now, we're going to have one more discussion on the 21st, and that one is talking about the Garifuna culture, past, present, and future in a nutshell, where we've been, the significance of the 19th of November, where we are as a community here in Belize, and where we see ourselves going. The participants for that discussion is Emilia Thomas, who is a Garifuna musician who is a young person and is a part of the Garifuna collective. And we have a social activist, Mr. Jamal Swaza, who is also from Dangriga. The two of them are from Dangriga. And that will definitely be an interesting conversation. So, again, thank you two for being here. Thank you
Thank
all
you.
who stuck with us
Thank you.
throughout this hour.
Thank you.
Sure,
Thank
no
you,
problem.
Rusty. And thank
So,
you,
Thank you for
everyone. Thank you,
having us.
Alicia. Thank you
Thank
very
you as
much.
well.
uh,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and any
Ayo.
last comments from the two of you?
Um,
All right, I guess with that, okay.
I just want to say thank you to your audience and thank you to Heritage Education Network. And thank you, Ralycia. Thank you, Rashid. Ayo, everyone.
Okay. All right. Have a good night.
Pretty
Bye,
Guyong.
everyone. We see you.
Pretty Guyong. Mhm.